Welcome everyone, Kim Searle, Emotional Mastery. Thank you so much for tuning into this interview that I'm going to be having here with Caroline Mitchell. Before I get started, I just want to explain why me? Why am I doing these interviews? I'm really interested in anybody who's doing any work that meets with my mission of raising the vibration of the planet. I do it through clearing old, negative and heavy emotions, some of that faulty mental thinking that we have going on, to help us just step into who we truly are, and thus making you feel lighter and brighter. So Caroline, I've known for how long, Caroline?
Oh, a couple of years.
Couple of years.
You came to my rescue with one of your amazing meditations. I was having a complete meltdown and I was so stuck. And I put a shout out on one of the groups that we're both in, the women's business group we're in.
Yeah.
You came to my rescue. It's like, oh, that was amazing. So thank you for that. That's how we first connected.
Thank you. And actually, you may have forgotten, but we connected before that because I was just recovering from glandular fever, and I met you at Avebury when you were doing a dragon meditation, and the whole thing about dragons. I've had a thing about dragons since childhood.
Okay.
I came along on my way down to Glastonbury. They're in opposite directions. Who knew?
I know what you mean. Yeah. We think of Glastonbury and Avebury being on the same line. I think they are connected through a ley line, because you've got the Michael and Mary ley lines go through. They go up the east coast somewhere and they come right through. And they go through Glastonbury and Stonehenge and Avebury. Well, that's the wrong order, but that's where they do. And they cross at various points. So yeah, they are connected.
So Caroline Mitchell is the original dragon lady. So I was completely hooked from the word go. So, so Caroline, thank you very much for taking the time today to chat to me. And it is informal, so we've got our coffee. So hope you have too. So just tell me more. Dragons, what's that all about?
Yeah, what is it all about? I'm learning daily. Dragons are another form of energy. Now, when I first met dragons, which was a good few years ago now, hence being the phrase, the original dragon lady, not a title that I gave myself, I hasten to add, because I'm a bit, I can't say that, but a friend of mine who's incredibly clairvoyant, clairaudient and whatever, and does a bit of dragon work, kept saying there's this big large dragon kept coming into her and saying she's got to use the original dragon lady, and this went on for weeks, and Clive eventually said, okay, I'll give over. I will use the original dragon lady. So it's not a phrase coined by me, it's a phrase they gave me through a friend of mine. So what are dragons all about? They are energetic beings, like our spirit guides, our power animals, spirit animals, angelics, that kind of thing. They are just another form of etheric energy, really. Some have had form, possibly not in this dimension that we're in here, but in other dimensions, and certainly in other areas of the world. And they may have had form. My feeling is they've had no form on Earth. That's my feeling.
Yeah.
That's the information I'm getting from them. So they're energetic beings that are here to help, guide, support, and teach us, in short.
Right. Okay. So how did you find out about them? Because I mean, I've said I loved dragons as a child. I loved magic as a child, and still do believe in magic. And the more I see it, the more I love it. But how did you get introduced to them? And
that was a really funny one. Like you, I've always had a love of fantasy. I don't do sci-fi, funnily enough, but I love fantasy. Pete's Dragon, when I was a kid, was like I loved that film. So I've always sort of quite liked the idea of dragons, but that was something from childhood, and I certainly didn't take it into my teens or my early 20s. It wasn't on my radar in any way, shape or form. And when I was running the One Source magazine back in the early 2000s, my friend and deputy editor and sidekick and whatever, a lady called Karani Connolly, went off to do an interview for me with a system called Colourworks. It's now called Colour Mirrors, but at the time it was called Colourworks, because there was these beautiful coloured bottles. I haven't got any up here. There's the round ones that are 2 colours, and then there's the sprays that I still have. And they were just fascinating, absolutely intriguing. And so I packed Karani off to go and interview this lady about the colour mirror system for the magazine. Anyway, she came back raving about this system. It is an incredible system, to be fair, of raising the vibration and energetics and shifting old patterns and goodness knows what else. Anyway, the long and the short of all that lot was that Karani ended up doing the training course on it, and she's now actually one of the world's leading teachers in colour mirror system. Written a couple of books on it and one thing and another. Anyway, she kept on about these bloody dragons. And it's like, yeah, no. She said, look, dragon, you are dragon. Dragon is you. It's just, it is completely resonates. It's your energy.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, just go away. It's just that's like unicorns, it's barking, not a chance. I'm a pragmatist and I'm grounded.
Yeah.
And I do spirit guides and everything else. But dragons was just, for me, was a step too far. So I was in big, not chance. Anyway, after about 3 months of browbeating from Karani, I found myself on this colour mirrors course. It's a 2-day course. It was fabulous, actually, 2-day course. And we had to choose a bottle to work with over the 2 days. And now none of these bottles have labels. They have no names. You were literally driven or drawn by the colour.
Yeah.
We had to choose, I think on day 1, we had to choose a spritzer bottle. And so off I trundled to go into the next room to choose my bottle. And I went, oh, I like, because you have to go complete intuition, what you're guided to. I went, oh, I like that one. Brought it back out, showed Moira, who was running the course. And she said, oh, you've chosen Black Dragon. Oh. And it was like, no. Anyway, I had to work with Black Dragon. So that was my first introduction. So I sort of played around with it, but it really wasn't sitting comfortably with me. I was in big denial. Ain't going to happen. So that was that encounter. And I worked with the colour mirror system, which is a fabulous healing system as much as anything. And I did that for a while, then parked it. It's like all of these things. Anything you learn quite often is a stepping stone to the next thing.
I think that's important, actually. I agree with you. I've been training for years doing the things that I'm doing.
Absolutely.
So, and whilst I didn't appreciate it, I've been working with emotions for 20 plus years, my own and others, personally and professionally. But each thing I've learned, even if it's been something small, like we were talking about here, a different modality, it just adds to your learning and takes you on to the next thing, don't you? Because you absorb it in your own way and then off you go.
Completely. And quite often when we learn a healing modality, we're learning it for ourselves first.
Yes.
Before we can actually then share it with other people.
Yeah, I agree.
And so the work that we actually did together a couple of weeks ago about clearing an old block for me, there was a massive shift through that colour mirror system over that weekend, and that was about forgiveness, actually, and how that, and a massive understanding. I was actually driving at the time when all this happened. I was joining the M27 on the way down to Portsmouth, and there was this massive shift took place. I was shaking.
Oh my gosh!
And it was like, oh my god! And that was actually a really huge shift. So yeah, a lot of it is about our own healing to start with. So anyway, fast forward a couple of years from One Source and the Black Dragon episode, and life had got a bit pear-shaped, as it does occasionally, well, quite seriously pear-shaped anyway. And a friend had talked me into doing my Reiki 1. He'd been banging on at me for a while to do my Reiki 1, and like a lot of things, I resist. I'm a trained healer. I'm an energy healer. And that's how my journey started back in the late 90s. And for me, energy is energy. You can call it, doesn't matter what you call it, Reiki, say chem, whatever, spiritual healing. The end of the day, it's the same energy. And I was very resistant, as I can be, to lots of things, about doing my Reiki 1. Eventually he said, look, just do it for you. I'm not saying train to be a healer. You don't need it. You're a healer already. But you need this for you to do some deeper healing work for you, to clear what's been going on. So off I trundled, went and did my Reiki 1. And lo and behold, at the beginning of the day, in comes this massive red dragon.
Wow.
And he stayed all day. It was fine.
So when you say he came in,
Yeah.
what do you mean? Did you see him? Did you feel him?
Yeah, see, I'm not very clairvoyant. I'm intermittently clairvoyant, which isn't very helpful in my role of work. But I am claircognizant, so I just know stuff.
Oh, okay.
And so I had the knowing came first. The clair knowing came first, of a sense of there was this energy in the room. And then came sort of the colour. And as another girlfriend of mine is another incredible clairvoyant medium. And she had seen him as well. And so we just accepted he was there, had no idea what he was doing there. We knew I'd shared the black dragon story with them.
Yeah.
And so again, she was aware of there was this sort of energy coming in. So when this red dragon tipped up, it was like, okay, and what are you doing here? And just accept it, see where it leads, what it's to do with, where it unfolds, and so on. So we went through the process of the day. And at the very final attunement, we were in 100 Acre Wood in Fareham, and my Reiki master chose a perfect spot. And this is why I think the dragons came in at that point as well. It was all perfectly lined up by the universe. And there was this little tributary. There was two little tributaries. They're only very narrow, it's like streams, but they crossed like that. So you had the four quarters.
Oh, right.
And we were sat. So I was actually sat. I don't know which quarter I was in, but I was sat on the cross of these two little rivers, having this final attunement done. And I had a sense of this energy and noise above my head, circling above my head, and it was way high up in the sky. But there's this circling, this whop 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 of wings. It's almost like it was enormous birds. And then I had a complete download. I'd never experienced a download until that point. When you get clairvoyance, you hear you see or you hear your spirit guides, you clairaudient, and you have you get messages and that kind of thing. But a download's for me is like binary. So it comes down, it's almost like binary numbers coming down into my crown chakra. It's the only way I can explain it.
Oh, well, I was going to say, how do you explain it? Because I have no idea.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever had that. So
it's quite incredible when you get a download. That's how I experience them anyway. And the upshot of that was my life's work. Now, I didn't know. It then came to mind that they were dragons. And what they were doing, there's a massive gaggle of them were flying nose to tail in the circle above my head. And they were just kept circling all the time. I don't know how long this went on for. It felt like ages. It may have been only a matter of seconds. It may have been minutes. I don't know. But they were circling overhead. And when we'd completed the final attunement and we sort of got back to my master's place for a debrief, my friend Anne and I were comparing notes. And she said, "Did you see those dragons that were flying overhead?" I went, "Yeah, I did." And so it was really nice that she saw them as well as the red dragon. She was with me throughout the whole day. And it was actually about 15 years later I discovered who the red dragon was.
Oh, right.
It took a long time. It was actually only the last 2 years. So this took place in 2005. So it took about 12 years to find. I'd forgotten about the red dragon completely. People kept saying to me, "There's a red dragon with you." I don't have a red dragon. There's a red. I don't have it. It must be yours. It's not mine. And I kept refusing this red dragon. And eventually, I was talking to Nikki Gorman, and she was on about this bloody red dragon. I don't know how it came about, but it suddenly, I don't know whether it dawned on Nikki or it dawned on me or how it came around. But the red dragon is actually Dr. Usui, the master and founder teacher of Usui Reiki. And so Dr. Usui can be dragon form, and he's bright red, or he can be human form.
Oh, Right, okay.
So that's
Yeah,
quite
I
interesting.
did the Yusui Reiki 1 and 2. I've not really taken it any further than that. I've often thought about it because I
Mm.
don't finish things very well. So just so before I move on to my next question, then
Yeah.
you said 100 Acre Wood. Is it the 100 Acre Wood?
Oh, as in, oh, what do you know? What from is it A.A. Milne who
Yeah,
wrote Pooh Bear?
Pooh. I'm a big Winnie the Pooh fan.
Do you know? I have no idea. I'll have to ask. It
Well,
could
I
well
just
be.
wondered. That was all. I heard it. I was like, oh, Winnie the Pooh. The best philosopher that we had, I think.
What, Winnie the Pooh's author, A.A. Milne?
Yeah, great philosophy on
Yes.
life. I love it.
Yes.
So, yes. So, throwing myself completely there for a moment
That's right.
into the world of poo.
What a fantastic place to be.
Yes, particularly right now in the middle of the coronavirus, we're in the poo. So it's interesting then that you're talking about these dragons, and it's only been in the last 2 years that you're really being out there with them more.
No.
But there was, oh, okay. Tell me more.
Because after that initial download,
Yeah.
they gave me my life's work, which is these guys.
I was just coming on to those guys.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I was going to talk about.
But I actually ate, slept, and breathed dragons solidly for 2 years. I taught. I did that. My life was consumed by dragons solidly, morning, noon, and night for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then I had to get away from it. I hit a wall, and there's a load of other stuff went on, and I had to go get a proper job. But
yeah,
and
and
the real world.
It's the nature, isn't it, of the
Yeah.
work you do?
Yeah, I hit burnout. I was heading to burnout anyway when the dragons came in. But I eventually had to walk away and say, look, I need a break from the whole of the mind, body, spirit world. I was sick, I was broke, I was pissed off. I didn't like the way the mind, body, spirit world was going at that time, and so I chose to walk away. And I actually swore I'd never step back into it, to be fair.
I remember you saying that actually, because you and I come from a similar background, project management, which is very practical, pragmatic, can do, get done, whatever.
Yes.
So I do get that, and I think that's why it's much stronger in people like us, people who come from corporates and whatever. There's more and more people like us turning to a different way of being. So it was actually, you're right, the downloading of the cards were done some time ago, weren't they?
It was, and they gave me probably over 40. I had over 40 dragons at that point that I was working with.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was a lot. And when I know now, and I put this in an email, I have a regular email mail out that I do sort of once a month or so, and I actually put this in my most recent email. I now know why we ended up living where we do, and why I had to go through the things I went through and the jobs the dragons put me in. So I now recognize, although I wasn't working professionally in the mind, body, spirit field, I was always still, it's a way of life for me. That spirituality isn't something that I pick up and put down, or if you live it, you can't pick. You generally don't pick it up and put it down, because it's intrinsic to who you are as a human being. So I kept my say,
because it's energy, isn't it?
Totally. And I've been there. I've been in this, this life. I've lived this life for so many years, probably from a child, and so nothing changed. It's just I wasn't out there in the world doing it professionally. And so the dragons basically put me into working for a builder. So I do nothing about building. I learned at a rate of knots. Talk about learning at the gallop. And then the following 2 jobs are all within the building industry in one way or another. But what I recognize now is that the dragons put me there, universe put me there, whatever you want to call it, because when we bought the house that we now live in, was a ramshackle 2 up 2 down farm cottage that was basically falling down and needed gutting because it was uninhabitable. And so I'd learned, of course, through those few years of working for various builders, I'd learned about planning, about protected species. I'd learned about project management. I'd learned about working with architects, working with planners, working with builders, trades, how to cost it all, and the sequencing of it all. And so between Kev and I, we managed and built this house.
Yeah.
And when we viewed the house, the morning we viewed the house, literally there wasn't even a brochure created for it. We were going away, and my mum had seen the stagers banging the sign down at the end of the lane. And she rang me and said, "There's a house. I know it's not where you want to be, but there's a house that's perfect for you. And I've just seen them put the sign up." Kev was coming back from town, came in and said, "I've just seen the estate agents putting the sign up." And so we pulled in here, because the place was empty, it'd been empty for months. We pulled in here, we rang the agent, and we couldn't get inside. I stood in the garden and cried, because I knew this was the house we needed to be in, and my work with the dragons would start again. It was time.
Oh, wow, really?
It was time to start again.
I do love it when synchronicities like that happen. And,
yeah.
you know, certainly when I'm working with clients, my aim is to get them into a place where they can start to experience synchronicities. And they might not be the big ones like you've got,
nope.
but they can start with the small things, like somebody being different towards them, or
completely.
You know, suddenly they're being recognized for something they're doing and they've never had it before. And it's like, and I've had it happen to me. So
yeah.
I love that. So the bigger stuff, how awesome.
I think it's so, even those little synchronicities, they're game changers, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Complete game changers. And so, you know, I knew the dragons would be back. It took a further 3 years to get the house to a point of being habitable. Live on a building site, it seemed like forever. No windows, doors, hardly any walls, and all that kind of thing. And it's the same friends that I've done my Reiki 1 with, that's seen the dragons and everything else. We'd met, I don't know, I can't remember what it was, over the last 3 or 4 years. And Anne said to me, "Do you know the dragons are back?" I went, "Yeah, I know they're back. They're starting to push." And so when the time was then right for getting the cards created, I hit so many, when the dragons first wanted me to create the cards, like, I'm not autistic, I cannot draw a straight line with a ruler.
And they are beautiful. Have you got one there that you can just show?
Yeah.
Some of these.
Oh, look! How I just literally just pulled him out the top. I've just done a post about him this morning on Facebook.
I pulled him out the other day.
Did you?
I did.
Yeah, literally, I've just pulled the deck off the top there. I didn't, he wasn't on the top, I promise. I literally just picked him out.
I love them. They're just designed beautifully, and as a dragon fan,
yeah, fabulous. So that's Father Time. So I knew where I got to. Oh, but when I forgot where I got to now. Sorry, Kim.
No, that's all right. You were just talking about where coming to create the cards.
Oh, yes.
For you.
So I wanted to create them way back in the day. And I can't draw. I didn't have any money to create them, and whatever. And so when they started banging on again more recently about getting the cards created, I was just hitting the wall. I had no idea. That's how I met Lindsay, actually. I had no idea how or where to go. And Lindsay then said that she had had hers printed in China. Like, oh, okay, right, okay, so there's the first clue, synchronicity. There's the first clue, thank you very much. Again, still had no idea how I was going to do this. And we're having dinner with some friends. I don't know, we've got onto dragons somehow, as we do, and my work. And I said, but I just hit this wall. I can't find an artist. I don't know where to go. I don't know how to get them printed. I don't know how to do this. I know I've got to do this, but I'm just stuck. Now, what I didn't know is my mate's husband is a complete tech whiz. He's a total website, whatever, guru. Anything about computers and whatnot, apps, he's the go-to guy.
We all need one of those guys in
my God, he was a lifesaver.
Yeah.
And he said, "Caroline, that's really easy. All you got to do is this. I said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." So I love him. Every Monday for about 6 weeks, he came over and he talked me through, and he put me onto an agency that's online, and he helped me write the blurb for what I wanted. He had the technical knowledge of what I needed them created in. So I stuck it up on there, and he said, then if you go to this place, you go to another website. You can then get you again ask put a post, or like a post, if you like. It's like a job spec of what it is you want and how many, and then they start, but it becomes a bidding. People then start bidding for your
it's
work.
like Fiverr then, Fiverr.
Oh, I don't know what Fiverr is.
It's exactly
Okay.
the same. People put their time up saying that they want some work done, and people bid for it.
Oh, there you go. Yes, it's that kind of thing. And so anyway, so lo and behold, artists came forward and whatnot, and I found this fabulous artist in Serbia, and I thought, I'm going to sign him. This was a Friday. I'm going to sign him, but I didn't get round to completing the contract on the Friday, so I decided I'd do it on the Monday morning. And the Dragon said, we're not working with him. He's the wrong artist for us. It's like, it's taken me too many years. I am not. We had a bit of a Barney over that one. And
how do you Barney with energy then?
Oh, just no. What they were going, absolutely no. I'm going, yes, now piss off. I'm going to do it my way.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, sod you. I don't care what you say. I am going to sign that contract on Monday morning and send it back to him. Monday morning, I opened my emails. He had pulled out.
Yeah, so they were going to get their way one way or another.
Oh, totally. And so at that point, I threw another hissy fit. And said, well, if you want a different artist, you better bloody well find one, because you want this work created. I can't draw. You better find me the right artist. So we had a bit of a row about that one, because I do argue with the Dragons. People say, oh, you shouldn't. You all be, nice to spirit and respectful. It's like, no, hello, you're mucking me about. Stop being a pain. So we had a bit of a hissy fit, and about they said to me they would find me the right artist. I said, we'll be quick about it. 48 hours later, another artist popped into my thing that I'd put on this agency thing, and I looked at his work, and it was like because my spec had to be spiritual, we had a channel, or I would help them channel. They had to understand dragons and fantasy, and I had quite strict criteria.
That's very good, actually. I don't know that I'd have gone to that level of detail, so that's really good.
Yeah,
and I think
I was told.
Good advice generally, isn't it? When you want somebody to do something for you, you need to be as specific as you can, because otherwise, and in project management, we know like this, because if you don't be specific, you might just ask for a cup, and somebody might come up with a small cup, and what you really wanted was a big mug.
Yeah, no fancy. Yeah, so anyway, this artist turned up, and yes, had some fairly decent art on there. I specified they had to have dragons on there. I needed to see their artwork of their fantasy and their dragon work. There's no dragon work on there, and I was going to dismiss it. It's like, you tick the other boxes, but actually you're not quite there for what I want. And I was going to dismiss it, and there's this resounding, you won't dismiss it. We want to work with him.
Right.
He is our artist. And so again, there's a bit of a like, are you sure? It's like, and I thought, there's no point in arguing at this point. I need an artist. So I then made him do me three test pieces. And the dragons were over the moon with it. Well, and you've seen the results.
The results are awesome.
An absolute joy to work with.
So tell me about the cards, actually, because obviously I know the cards aren't the only thing that you've got. You also see people on a one-to-one basis, or you do talks and things. So clearly the business has evolved from there now. So how are you working now with Dragon?
So ultimately, before we had COVID, I was doing workshops, and there could be small groups at home of maybe 5 or 6, up to 20 or 30 in another location, and on anything on the dragons. I have got earmarked, as long as COVID, we're out of lockdown, I'm actually taking a group to Orkney on a 5-day retreat.
Lovely.
to work with the Ring of Brogda, which the dragons gave me when I was in the Callanish Stones 2 years ago. To work with the energies of the Ring of Brogda, the dragons, earth healing, and whatever. So I've got a group coming in from hopefully all over the world. We're meeting at Heathrow and then flying to Orkney.
Awesome. So you are global.
I am global, absolutely global. So I work online with people, having them to connect to their dragons, any specific dragon what they want to do. I work face to face. I do dragon workshops. Dragons tend to guide me to what workshops they want me to do. So I've got one bubbling away at the moment that's quite interesting, and it's been around for, they've been, this clan has been coming in. That's what I now know. A group of dragons is called a clan.
I was going to ask you, because you mentioned a gaggle earlier.
Yeah.
Is that what a group of dragons are called?
Didn't know what to call them. Back to synchronicity. One particular morning, I opened up Facebook, and somebody was talking about dragons, and they had been given, whoever this person, I can't remember who this person was. I'd love to credit them with it, because I don't know who they are, so I can't remember. But they'd been given the fact that you call a group or a gaggle of dragons a clan. And you know, when you know something's right, you just go cold. You go, oh, and you just completely resonates with you.
Yeah.
I knew it was right. So whoever that person is, I do thank you, because that was a question I had. I didn't know what to call the collective name for a dragon was.
Yeah.
So that's why they're called clans. So I've got this new clans come in. So yeah, I work one-to-ones. I do talks. You know, wherever I need to do talks for various people. I've done positive living. For various people, I've done dragon talks from, you know, an hour to 2 hours, workshops, one-to-ones, that kind of thing, Skype and in person.
Yes, and I've been very fortunate, because obviously I did your meditation. I've done some work with you one-to-one, and I've attended at least one of your workshops. I don't think I managed a couple of them, but so a couple of things here then. Well, all at once. So the question that's burning in the back of my mind, when you were talking about getting your cards printed, you mentioned China, and we are currently in the middle of the coronavirus, COVID-19. So tell me, what are the dragons saying about this at this moment in time?
Yeah, it's not very PC, because the dragons are not politically correct. So
let me just ask anybody who might be easily offended to mute for the moment.
Yes.
Hello, Caroline, because I want to hear it.
This is long overdue. Not people being sick and dying, I hasten to add. That is not what the dragons are talking about. But what they are saying is we needed to hit the pause button. I have posted about this recently. As human beings, we were spinning off our axis. They talk about this quite a lot, that we are so out of step with the seasons, each other, but more importantly, we're too out of step with ourselves.
Oh, that is so where I'm coming from. As you know, I've got a program, Be More You, because we've been programmed from birth, and it's not just by our family and friends, it's society. We've been programmed to get a good education, to go out and get a job, to have the family, which we're preconditioned to do, but how we do it is another matter. And then to, you know, then to retire and then do whatever. We're preconditioned to all these ways that we're supposed to behave and be. It's not us.
And a lot of that comes through very clever marketing. Yes, I believe.
I think you're right. It's marketing. It's all
FOMO
around us. Fear of missing out. Yes. So and I should do one of my own actually. I've often blamed the Victorians for our emotional well-being. It's unkind, and I need to find a better way of saying it started with the Victorians, but arguably this goes back much further. And that is also another PC conversation. So we'll have that one separately, Caroline. But, you know, there are moments in history that I believe are particularly contributing to the levels of anxiety and fear that we're experiencing in this time. And we're clearing, you and I, and people like us, are clearing those old energies so that we can rise up and be more us. More the human, most of it. Sorry, I've got my on my soapbox. Back to you, Caroline.
No, it's fine. No, it's absolutely fine. But picking up on the fear thing there, a friend of mine posted about this. I think it was yesterday, and she got a very valid point. And is the fear comes up, or she's talking about anger. Beg your pardon, not fear. But fear is also showing us that something needs working on.
Yes, as does anger.
As does anger. Yeah, I was getting the two mixed up in particular. But the dragons are big on fear. As in, it's time to look at if you're fearful, you're projecting into the future. I had this conversation with a girlfriend this morning, funnily enough. So if you're in a point of a fear state, fear is based in the future. Now, what a lot of us are facing at the moment is we're out of control.
Yeah.
Because we have no control. We can't see our friends. We can't go to work. Our money's under threat. Our security's under threat, etc. and this is obviously all relating to COVID-19. The dragons here have to say, reset. You're being given a chance to reset. Look at your fears and be present. Because in the now, this very present moment, there is no fear. There is only now. And so if we can be more, and the dragons are big on mindful.
That's good. If I can just elaborate on that a little bit more in the language of my people,
of course,
is that if you're in the now, right now, you've got your walls around you, your home. Right now, you've got the food you need, provided you've managed to beat the queues. Right now, in this moment, you have everything you need.
Yeah.
Yes, you may have a letter saying that somebody wants some money. You may have something that's come through that said, you've been made redundant, but right now you're okay.
Absolutely.
And so mindfulness is a really good way of doing it. Now, I've not trained in mindfulness, but you have, haven't you, Caroline?
I'm learning. I've been working with mindfulness, the concept of mindful meditation, for a very long time, for probably 15 or 18 years. Mm. And it's been a part of my life for such a long time. And I've actually got involved with nothing to do with dragons, but it's more, this is to dogs. Which is a completely sideways launch. But I got involved with working with a dog trainer, and he wanted me to do, because I've done some mindfulness work with him, and we talk about my work and things. He thought I was completely insane when he first met me, but he's now a little bit more accepting of what I have to say and do, because love him. He's a total muggle, which I love, but he's also open-hearted and open-minded. Anyway, he wanted me to do some mindfulness work on this course, this program he was creating. And I thought, actually, if I'm going to be talking about mindfulness meditation, I actually need to do the course. And it's a synchronicity. It's the dragons bang on about mindfulness. Then there's this course that had come up for me to work with, to co-host with this chap. And it's like, actually, I've got to walk my talk. And that's another thing with the dragons. It's all about responsibility. And so, yeah, I'm doing the mindfulness meditation course at the moment. So far, the modules I've put in, I'm coming out with 100% distinction. So I think it shows I do know my talk.
Girly twat is all I'm saying.
Say again? What was that? I missed
girly
that.
Swat.
A what?
Girly swat.
No, girly swat. Yeah.
There was always one. You're it. So that's.
Oh, I'm not. Do you know what? I could never be called a swat. I used to do everything by the seat of my pants, if I'm honest.
So it's a bit hard. I could talk to you forever, Caroline.
Thank you.
But we need to save one for another video, perhaps.
Okay.
What I'd like to just mention is, and before we come to the end, so I want to know more about this being signed by Watkins Publishing. How awesome is that? What does that mean for you and for listeners potentially? What does that? What will that?
Do you know? Again, it's absolute synchronicity. I launched these guys back in 2018. I can't remember when I launched now. It's 2 years ago anyway. Yeah, it might have been Christmas 2018, I think. 17 or 18. I was at the hen shop. So I launched at the hen shop at Yule. There's a whole other story behind that as well, about dragons and whatever, which is for another video, because there's a lot of synchronicities within this system, what took place. Anyway, this lady came into the shop and she was, I won't go into how she ended up in there, but she ended up in there just as a last minute decision, popped in, saw me, spoke to me, and she's a radio presenter, and all she was at that time. And she said, "Oh, I'd love to interview you on the radio. I'm actually about to clear off to Peru or somewhere for a few weeks, but when I'm back, we'll hook up." It's very much on the spiritual level that her show was on. And so she interviewed me. We got together. I had the interview on the radio. And then a year later.
Oh, bear with me. We've got somebody join. So apologies, people. Somebody's tried to join my call, and clearly I need to lock people out. So back in the room.
Yeah.
So you've just met Naz, and she's going to be talking to you about your dragons.
Yeah. So I did my interview on the radio, and then the following, that was sometime in, I don't know which year it was. That everything sort of seems to have blended together over the last year or so, probably the last 3 years. And so anyway, I had the second interview on the radio a year later, and she said in February, and she said, I'm actually going up to the London Book Fair. She said, and because she'd bought a set of cards from me that day at the launch, and she said, I'm going up to London Book Fair in March. So that would have been 2018. 19. That was last year. So she said, I'm going to take my cards with me, and I was just going to I just felt to show them to people. I said, yeah, whatever. I said, but don't take your cards. I'll give you a set to take with you, because if anybody wants to keep them as a reference point, you're going to lose your cards. So let me give you another deck. So anyway, that's what I did. She's trying to lodge, and she actually had somebody earmarked that she wanted to talk to. So she knows quite a lot of publishing houses and people in publishing and whatever. And so the person that she had planned to meet, that meeting never took place. And so she ended up at the Watkins store. I don't know how she ended up at the Watkins store. I don't know who she knew at Watkins, whether she knew anybody at Watkins. I think she may have done. And she showed them to the then editing director of editing, or editing something, whoever, the big boss anyway.
Yeah.
And lady went, oh, I like these. And that was how it was. So Naz left her a deck, and she rang me and said, I've left them with Watkins. They quite like them. Let's see where it goes. Anyway, so the long and the short of it was, I was in Miami on holiday last May, and I got a phone call from Naz saying Watkins want to sign you.
Oh, wow.
I was like, oh, awesome my God.
Yes.
It was just out of the blue. And what's really interesting is that publishers have they don't have open season. So publishers don't take, especially in today's markets, it's so competitive. They don't take unknowns like me, because basically I'm a complete unknown. Unless you've got to have an agent, you've got to have a following of, I think a minimum of 5 or 10,000 on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. And they don't take unsolicited proposals. And in fact, it's closed season basically, and they decided they needed to sign me. So they obviously saw the dragons had legs. So we've gone through the rebranding process of the cards over the last 12 months. They were. Are
the dragons happy with that?
Yeah, they've actually been very quiet, so I take it that's a good sign. They haven't had much to say about it. They've actually been quite quiet. But then they always said that's where I would end up. They would be published by a publishing house. I always knew that right from day one. I didn't know how I'd get there, but I knew it would take place. It's taken 12 or 15 years or whatever it is. And I thought once I'd self-published, I thought that was it. But no, they still said they'd be published by a publishing house, because the dragons want that information global. No, I guess I've got a small global following, and it is only a small global following at the present moment. But I guess that will expand as things need to. But the dragons want their message spread far and wide. They've got a lot to say. They've got a lot to share, a lot to teach us as humanity. And they want that message out there, and they are not backwards in coming forwards, and they will shout from the rooftops, and that's what they want done.
Oh, awesome. And I'm guessing you'll be doing that through a mixture of workshops and one-to-ones. And I know you did mention that these were going out into sort of, various book fairs globally as well, which means you might be a little bit of a traveller in your future somewhere.
Who knows? We've been slightly scuppered by COVID, because the London Book Fair was cancelled in March. So that is obviously not just for me, but for every author on the planet who showcases their work at places like the London Book Fair and other places around the world. those events being cancelled will obviously have an impact on who gets to see the product. But you know, we've got technology.
As you say, the dragons are all about pausing.
Totally, and it's this. No, it is what it is. I'll just keep doing my thing, and I hope I've got this thing that I want to run a retreat, or the dragons have been on about this for a very long time, and I need to go to Sedona in Arizona. I've been pulled to Arizona since about 2000, so 20 years. 20 years.
We're a bit slow on the uptake there.
Oh, everything for me takes forever. Because I'm resistant. And I've had this pull to Arizona. I've been to Arizona once, but I've got this pull to Sedona, and it's something to do with the energy there. And I've known this since 2000, 2001. And the dragons in more recent years, the dragons are now saying, we need to work with you, and you need to work in Sedona with people. So that's my next big mission. I have no idea if it'll happen, how it will happen, or when it will happen. My feeling is it'll be 2022.
Okay, perfect. So how do people get in touch with you, Caroline? I think you've covered a lot of ground there. Well done, thank you.
Sorry, I've probably gone on forever. How long have we been on?
I have no idea, don't worry.
I haven't bored people to death.
Well,
how do they get in touch with me?
They'll be here, won't they? So how do they get hold of you? Yes.
So website is Caroline@carolinemitchell.info.
Yeah.
Facebook is Caroline Mitchell, the original Dragon Lady.
Perfect.
They're the best ways to get hold of me. So I tend to be on Facebook. I do Insta, which is the same thing as it's Insta at Caroline Mitchell.
Or just look up the original Dragon Lady in Google.
Yeah. There's some very weird stuff comes up if you do that as well. But yeah, I am there. If you do Caroline Mitchell, the original Dragon Lady, you will find me.
Perfect. Well, big thank you, Caroline. I'm fascinated. I could talk for hours about dragons because I love them, and I love the journey you've been on. What a journey! And you know, certainly when I'm talking to people, you know, they're very often sat with something for a long time. So your resistance is just typical of us as human beings. We sit with stuff until eventually we get that shove. So we love those dragons. So
thank you.
I'd love to do another talk a little bit more about the dragons another time. But
of course, love
to speak to you. Thank you very much. And thank you for those who've made it to the end. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we have. Thank you and take care.
Kim, thank you. Dragon blessings, darling.
Thank you.
Bye, love.
Oh,
hello.